She laughed so loudly the sound bounced off the glass office walls. 10%. Sandra Cole leaned back in her chair and shook her head like I had said something ridiculous. After 12 years, you think you deserve that much? I stood beside her desk holding a thick portfolio. Reports, charts, systems I had built from nothing. Inside those pages were sleepless nights, sacrificed weekends, and work that had saved this company millions. I kept my voice steady. The delivery system one designed reduced shipping delays by half. Sandra waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. Everyone is replaceable, she said. Even someone like you. My name is James Reeves. I am 34 years old and one of the best supply chain specialists in this industry. For 12 years I stayed loyal to Porter Logistics, believing that hard work would eventually bring respect. Instead, I sat in a corner cubicle while managers with half my experience enjoyed corner offices and company credit cards. When I returned to my desk that afternoon, a notification appeared on my screen. The company newsletter was praising Sandra for a logistics breakthrough, a breakthrough I had created myself, quietly, without credit, the way I created everything here. I stared at my name nowhere on the page. I looked at the framed photo of my parents beside my monitor. My father spent 30 years at one company, loyal to the end, and lost everything when they shut down without warning. I had always told myself I would not let that happen to me. Yet here I was. I opened the leather notebook I kept locked in my desk drawer. Page after page of personal projects. Algorithms I had developed at home, on my own time, using my own resources. One project in particular had become the entire backbone of Porter's delivery operation. At the top of that page, in my own handwriting, it said, Personal Project, Predictive Distribution Modeling. And then something became very clear to me. I had never legally transferred ownership of those innovations to Porter Logistics. Not once. Not ever. I picked up my phone and called a number I had ignored for years. Her name was Helen Brooks, Operations Director at Radius Shipping, Porter's biggest competitor. Helen had tried to recruit me 3 times. 3 times I had said no out of loyalty. This time I pressed call before I could talk myself out of it. That evening we met at a restaurant across the city. For the first time in years, someone sat across from me and actually listened. Helen told me Radius had been studying Porter's sudden rise in efficiency for years. She said it was obvious someone brilliant was working behind the scenes, while someone else took the credit. I told her that someone was me. She smiled like she had always known. She offered me triple my salary, stock options, and my own department. More than any of that, she promised my work would carry my own name. I placed the notebook on the table and explained the ownership situation honestly. Helen listened without interrupting. Then she leaned forward. If those systems are legally yours, she said, Radius will compensate you fairly for every single one. 2 weeks later, I placed my resignation letter on Sandra's desk. For the first time in 12 years, she looked nervous. When she learned I was joining Radius, the color left her face entirely. She offered the raise immediately, the same raise she had laughed at 10 days earlier. I smiled and declined. The new offer includes respect, I said. That matters more. In my final weeks, I gathered every document proving my ownership of those algorithms. Dated notebook entries, emails showing Sandra had repeatedly ignored my requests about acquisition rights. On my last day, Porter's legal team tried to force me to sign a non-compete agreement. I refused and presented the evidence instead. The advisor's face went pale as he flipped through the pages. That was the moment Porter realized how completely their operation depended on work. they had never actually owned. Monday morning, I walked into my new office at Radius. Not a cubicle, a proper office, with a team of my own and a leadership title that matched the work I had always been doing. Within weeks, Radius implemented my systems, and the results were immediate. Delivery times dropped. Costs fell below anything the industry thought was possible. Porter's largest client, Eastwood, ended their contract and moved to Radius entirely. Porter's stock collapsed. Sandra began calling, leaving voicemails offering consulting deals and compensation packages that grew more desperate. With each message, I did not return a single one. Porter eventually sued me for intellectual property theft. The court dismissed the case in full. My records were dated, thorough, and undeniable. The systems were mine as Porter collapsed. Hundreds of ordinary employees lost their jobs through no fault of their own. I thought about my father. I thought about loyalty and what it costs the wrong people. So I worked with Radius to launch a hiring initiative specifically for former Porter employees. Many of them found new positions, fair salaries, and workplaces where their names appeared on the things they built. Years later, I stood on a stage accepting an Industry Innovation Award. The cameras flashed, the crowd applauded, and I thought about that afternoon in Sandra's office, her laughter bouncing off the glass walls, and the words she had meant to diminish me with. Everyone is replaceable, even someone like you. She was right about one thing. I was replaced by a better version of myself. One who finally understood that nobody else gets to decide what you are worth. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And drop the city you are watching from in the comments. I want to see how far this has traveled.